The 49ers making moves. They're not waiting around for holdouts this time, getting it done before free agency even starts. Deommodore Lenoir, 5-year contract extension with the San Francisco 49ers, what it means for the Niners now and 5 years into the future, which actually is pretty fascinating. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you as always at BD Peacock at Crocky209. We got a special guest on this Wednesday episode. If you know, you already know. We will introduce him momentarily. I do want to thank all of the everydayers out there and all the new listeners as well. Make sure you are subscribed on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. And now, let's bring on today's guest.
I don't buy it.
It's the wrong time.
Nicholas Whistler, come on down.
Am I crazy, guys, or did the thing where our names pop up go from red to blue, or from blue to red just now?
I changed it.
Okay, good. So I don't know what happened with our settings. All of a sudden, it was just blue instead of our 49ers red with our names in it. So those of you who are watching on YouTube know what we're talking about. Those of you who are not on YouTube, you don't care what we look like or what it says on the screen. The only thing that matters is
I don't buy it.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't believe it.
All that matters is today's esteemed guest, Mr. Nicholas Winkler, who's become our special teams correspondent. We're going to have a Winks Wish watch on today's show. We got to talk kickers. We got to talk sideline drama as well. Where I want to talk about the Lions and the Chiefs and the Arizona Cardinals, which is now a team the Niners are going to have to contend with here going forward in the 2024 season. But we're going to look ahead a little bit because the Niners made a big move today, something I did not expect at all.
Wow.
And Deommodore Lenoir extended by the San Francisco 49ers, a 5-year contract extension, a long one, $92 million. The 49ers extending a free agent to be, getting it done early. Deommodore Lenoir, congrats to him. It's a huge deal for him. It's life-changing money. And guys, maybe the 49ers and John Lynch and ownership, maybe they're learning. And they said, you know what? We're not going to wait. We're not going to wait for holdouts. We're not going to wait for a player to not show up to mandatory mini camp. We are going to get a deal done. And we're not even going to wait until he's a free agent. A 5-year contract extension for Deommodore Lenoir, a little over $18 million per year. He's been one of the 49ers' best player. Matt Barrows called him the best player at training camp this year for the 49ers. He's been phenomenal in the secondary, a really good young player, a 5th-round pick that has been drafted and developed. And I know Croc off the air, you talked about it, but he was a guy that almost got or thought he might get cut. Do you remember he put some film out there in his first training camp, and he locked up an undrafted receiver. Was it Austin? Do you remember the receiver?
I think it was rookie minicamp. And yeah, he posted something at a time where you're not supposed to really be touching receivers.
Yes.
And which that was news to me because that wasn't explained to us when I was doing OTAs and rookie minicamp and all that. Yeah. But it went viral. The clip went viral, and it was a great rep from him. But they didn't like it. And then, his rookie year, he came in and he did some good things, but then he got benched. And then fast forward to the following year, he was worried that he potentially may be let go. And he talked about how it was the practice against the Minnesota Vikings, the joint practices where he competed against Justin Jefferson. And he felt like without that practice week, he doesn't know if he'd still be a 49er.
The hyena came out that week, and I love the nickname. I love the way he plays outside in. It's so important to be able to play in the nickel in this day and age in the NFL, and he's really good at that, and he's good on the outside. Phenomenal player. Love the mindset. Love the way he plays. It's well-earned money, And I talked about this, and I thought there was no chance the Niners were going to get it done. I said, get it done now. Do you remember this, Croc? This was like before the season. It was like, why are we waiting on guys like Brandon Ayuk and Nick Bosa and all these contracts? And I named Deommodore Lenoir. I said, get Deommodore Lenoir done now. They got it done now. I can't believe it. It's already done, Wink. And Deommodore Lenoir going to be a Niner for the next 5 or so years, and who knows, maybe more.
Yeah, I mean, everybody who's watching the YouTube stream here has seen our nonstop smiles since this thing has started, because that's such great news. We heard about it right before we started recording this thing. The minute I saw it, I was like, oh, I got to check and make sure this is real, because this is really exciting, but I don't want to be faked out. The Niners never do this in the middle of the season. Like, what's going on? This is great. He's a fantastic player. He's exactly what the 49ers needed in that secondary the last few years. He's played exceptional football. Like you said, inside, outside. Doesn't matter where you put this guy. He's a great cornerback. He's a great football player, and he's a great 49er. So this is a great deal.
The money is interesting. I read that it made him the 11th highest paid cornerback in the league. And the thing is, with getting out ahead of these things, almost like the 49ers could have done with Brandon Ayuk, the longer you wait, other guys start signing, and it starts kind of bumping up the money that this guy potentially gets. So I think they made this deal at a very good timing for the organization and obviously for him. I mean, that's a lot of money regardless. But if you're the 49ers, you don't want things to start changing. And a guy that you potentially could have gotten for $18 million a year, and we haven't seen guarantees and what all that stuff looks like, but it's a lot of money for him. It could change come the offseason, and all of a sudden these other guys start signing, and he's Deommodore Lenoir and his agent are looking like, well, my guy's better than that, and he's more valuable to this team than this guy. And all of a sudden, you have this power struggle with money, and you go down this rabbit hole of what they've gone through the last few years with some of these signings. So I think it was a great time for him. It is funny how I think when we saw the post on social media, almost everybody in unison talked about how the 49ers didn't wait until the offseason. They didn't wait until a holdout. Like, they did this in the middle of the season. Good for them, though.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's awesome. I love it all the way around. I love it for everybody. I love it for the 49ers. Love it for Deommodore Lenoir himself. And you mentioned the other corner. So 11th highest paid corner in the league, I think you said. And so here are the names. I'm looking at them right now. And the number is interesting because it puts him just below that top level of cornerback in the NFL. But there's a really sizable gap between the top guys and then the next group of guys. So the top 10 contracts in the NFL are Jalen Ramsey's getting average $24 million per year. Patrick Surtain, $24 million per year. Just got a deal done, I think, this offseason. Jair Alexander, AJ Terrell, Denzel Ward, Marlon Humphrey, Trevon Diggs, Marshawn Lattimore, Tyson Campbell, and L'Jarius Sneed, who also signed a free agent contract with the Titans this offseason, getting $19 million. Oh, and Jalen Johnson is the most recent to get his contract as well, right? The same number as Sneed, $19 million per year. And now right below that level is where Deommodore Lenoir is, but it drops from 19 mil per year to the next guy is Carlton Davis of the Lions at 14.8. So just under $15 million per year. So there's a big shelf there. And that's where Deommodore Lenoir's contract comes in. And look, the initial numbers, 18.4, 18.2, whatever it is per year. We'll see if those are the real numbers because, the initial numbers are usually the one that's leaked from the agent's side. And so maybe it's a little less than that, but it's almost a weird, like, middle ground of not paying him like a cornerback one, but paying him more than the next tier of cornerbacks in the NFL and getting ahead of a lot of contracts as well. Cause the Sauces are up next and, Stingley or, whoever, there's a bunch of guys that are going to come and I'm sure get more money than Deommodore Lenoir gets. So by the time he's in year 3 of this, he might not be top 20. I don't know, as far as contracts go in the NFL, which is why I like doing it now. But it's an interesting deal because it doesn't put him in that CB1 territory with, the Jalen Ramseys of the world, but it puts him just below that and puts him above everybody else. And so we'll see how the market goes this offseason. But I love it. And there's one aspect of this deal, guys, that actually I find the most interesting, and it is the length of the contract. It's a 5-year contract. So starting next year, if that's year 1, unless they're erasing some contract this year, which I don't think. So 2025 through 2029 is when this contract would run. And right now, there are 0 players under contract in 2029. Deommodore Lenoir is the first one. Except now the Niners do have about $20 million in salary cap expenditures in 2029. all void years. Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, Jake Brendel, Malik Collins. I don't know how Malik Collins' contract's voided all the way into 2029. Juwan Jennings. So a lot of the new contracts that have been done recently, a lot of star players there, and then some other, funny money, pushing money into the future with void years and maxing out those void years. All of those contracts are void contracts, and the 49ers have $20.3 million of total cap liabilities right now for 2029, but they're all void years. None of those guys are actually under contract for those seasons. Deommodore Lenoir, the first player that is now signed into the 2029 season for the San Francisco 49ers.
You got to feel that's going to change in the offseason, right? That it's going to be Brock Purdy who's joining them there in the long-term deal?
Off-season? What do you mean? Maybe that's the one that goes into September. We'll find out if it actually gets done in the off-season. That would be actually even more shocking if we saw hey, he's up next. Don't wait. Let's go. Brock Purdy. Do that one tomorrow. All right, more with Deommodore Lenoir, his new contract with the 49ers. Nicholas Winkler has become our special teams correspondent here. We got to get his thoughts on what's going on with the 49ers special teams. And I want to talk about the 49ers competition this season. And we started to touch on a little bit on yesterday's program. Lions, Chiefs. What about those Arizona Cardinals, too? All that coming up on today's Locked On 49ers next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers on FanDuel can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. All the weekly lines. You want to bet on your San Francisco 49ers next week against the Seattle Seahawks. You want to bet on your San Francisco 49ers to win the Super Bowl. Better odds now than at the beginning of the season for those Niners. Coaches of the year, the next coach to get fired, all that and more you can find at FanDuel. And, of course, NBA, NHL, and so much more. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you want to check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more. You can find it all on that same page where you place your bets at FanDuel.com. And you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. All you got to do is download the app or go to FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. The next segment of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Prize Picks is so fun to play, and you can win real money playing Prize Picks DFS. All you do is you pick two or more players, you pick more than or less than on the stat projections at Prize Picks and watch the winnings roll in. For example, you think Justin Jefferson will get more than 83.5 receiving yards next week, or Lamar Jackson will pass for more than 1.5 touchdowns. Cook up hot takes with your friends and win real money this football season when you and your crew run your game on Prize Picks. And Prize Picks is the best place to get real money action and join over 10 million users when you sign up today and get a special offer for our listeners. That's right. You can get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. All you got to do is download the app and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, guys. Deommodore Lenoir signed 5-year contract, $92 million. Congrats to him. I love the way this team is shaping up in the secondary. You got young players like Renardo Green, who's been the highest graded corner recently, according to Pro Football Focus. He's looked really good as a rookie. Malik Mustapha has jumped in and gotten better and better, I think, and maybe had his best game of the year as a starter last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, filling in nicely and looks like pretty much the heir apparent, I think, if you're reading the writing on the wall. And that might be part of this deal is signing Lenoir, and you're realizing, okay, we're probably going to sign this guy and probably not sign Charvarius Ward, probably not sign Talanoa Hufanga, potentially let those guys walk in free agency. And you have Renardo Green and you have Malik Mustapha stepping in. And Wink, I don't know what you think about it, but I think the team building strategy and hitting on a whole bunch of rookie draft picks probably helps that quite a bit.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. When you hit on draft picks, especially late draft picks with some of these guys, like it just sets your franchise ahead of the rest. And I know the 49ers have a ton of draft picks lined up next year too. I mean, it's a ridiculous number if you look at it. I think maybe they are planning for that kind of a youth movement in some of these areas, which is smart if these guys are playing well. And the guys you all just named, they're playing extremely well. I mean, we even mentioned rookies like Purdy, who are also out there just dominating at their position, right? So when you have a great draft, it's just great for your entire franchise for years to come. And I love the deal for Lenoir. I wish that he played special teams, or that any of these guys you just named are out there actually play special teams, because that is killing the 49ers right now.
Oh, dude. Yeah. The special team stuff. And look, Wink, I think you've kind of become the reluctant special teams enthusiast here on Locked On 49ers, but you could really, amongst 49ers fans now, it's a niche that I didn't really realize needed to be filled. And let's be honest, if Kyle Shanahan cared as much about special teams as Nick Winkler did, maybe the 49ers special teams would be better right now, because he's just like, I don't want to think about it. What's the highest pick we can use on a kicker? Fine. 3rd round pick. Let's go get the best kicker. Best punter, 4th round. Sure. Fine. Let's do that. And it's not working out great for the 49ers right now. I want to hold on one second, because I want to get Croc's opinion on the 49ers young secondary. Do you think this is a signal that the Niners are kind of done as far as like what they're building is like, this is the unit, and Renardo Green jumps into the starting lineup? Maybe they do some other things, but is that what it looks like going forward to you? It's Jair Brown and Malik Mustapha at safety, and it's Renardo Green and Deommodore Lenoir, the top 2 corners going forward?
We've seen things change from one year to the next really fast for the 49ers. But if I had to guess right now, with how a lot of these young guys are playing, there has to be a lot of belief that they have the right guys in place. So Green, looking at Deommodore Lenoir, locked up long term. You look at Jair Brown, he has played well. You look at Mustapha. I think the 49ers really are primed to be able to kind of coast. Maybe you want to find someone who is your like just legit nickel, and Deommodore Lenoir, obviously he's played outside, plays nickel, he's doing whatever. Do you want someone that is more like just a specialist at that, like when they had like Kawan Williams? Or are you saying, well, no, part of us paying $92 million to Deommodore Lenoir is he has to be this guy that plays both, and okay, we just got to find another pure outside cornerback for when Lenoir does go into the nickel. But aside from that, I think they definitely are sitting really pretty with a lot of the young talent they have on the back end. And the craziest part about it is where they drafted these guys. These guys aren't really high draft picks. Even Renardo Green was one of the last picks in the 2nd round. So he's a late day 2 pick. You got Jair Brown. He was a late third round pick, dang near a comp 3rd round pick almost, right? And then Mustapha, he was late. I mean, they're getting these guys at big time value. When I saw how much Lenoir got paid, I started thinking, how much has he made to this point in the NFL? It's probably not much. And he's on year 4 right now. And he's making a lot less than a lot of other guys. So obviously this big contract makes up for all of that. But they're getting guys on the cheap because of where they're drafting it, as opposed to taking a cornerback in the top 5 and the guy still not work out.
Croc, do you think that, real quick, can I ask you before we move past this, Croc? I know that there are some cornerbacks out there, right, that are just lockdown guys, right, that follow the team's best receiver around. We talk about Lenoir and how he's great outside and he's great in the slot. Is that something we might see more from Lenoir going forward?
You would think that maybe some money would make them do things like that, but the 49ers, that hasn't been their philosophy. They have their coverages, they play coverage, they have their scheme, and they've been just sticking with that. And that goes back to the Robert Saleh days, the DeMeco Ryans days. In spurts, you've seen them say, you know what, I really like this matchup. Let's put Travarius Ward on DK Metcalf, or let's put Travarius Ward on this bigger receiver. But for the most part, you don't see, at least for an entire game, right? I was with the New York Jets for a minute, and I remember watching the film. And on the film, it was the craziest thing you'd ever see. Darrelle Revis was on whoever that best receiver is for a majority of the game. I'd say 80% of his snaps were against whoever that top receiver was. And they would shade their coverage to the entire other side. And they had a good corner over there too, and Antonio Cromartie. But it really was truly an island. You have no help, and you just got to go out there and play man-to-man. I don't think the 49ers are doing any of that with their guys. But I wonder if in moments we may see them say, you know what, if they have this receiver and he's kind of going crazy a little bit, let's start to move Lenoir around to, at the very least, just be a little bit more competitive throughout the route than maybe someone else would be in that moment as well. But if you like both of your corners, Green has played well. We talked about his grades, and then you like Deommodore Lenoir, of course, then maybe you don't have to do a whole lot of chasing a receiver around.
Speaking of contracts, one of our listeners brought up something to me earlier today, and it kind of blew my mind. I always want to call him Nick Moody. Jake Moody makes more money than Brock Purdy. Because he was a 3rd-round pick, and Brock Purdy was a 7th-round pick. That's all going to change next offseason. But we got to talk special teams here. Wink, your thoughts on the special teams, the drama on the sidelines, but more importantly, what's going on the field with the 49ers special teams, including Wink's Wish Watch. And we'll talk about the 49ers' biggest competition this year in the NFL next. The final segment of today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Ultimate Pro Football GM. Hey, 49ers fans, do you remember our great partner, Ultimate Pro Football GM, from last season? Well, they're back, and they have added an amazing new game mode I need to tell you about. The game that has you step into the shoes of a football franchise GM, and it tasks you with leading them to glory, now has a new head coach career mode. So on top of getting to build your dynasty, drafting players, signing free agents, trading for guys, and hiring your coaching staff, you get to act as that coaching staff as well, and you get to call your own offensive plays during games. Additionally, you'll dig the new tools you can work with, such as individual training camps and upgraded negotiation systems. So this fun and realistic game just got a whole lot better. If you've already have it installed, just be sure to update it so you can continue to build your dynasty as you already have. Ultimate Pro Football GM, completely free. No ads, 100% playable offline, play on the go as you want and when you want to. And here's a special offer for our Locked On listeners. Use the promo code Locked On NFL, all caps, inside the game store and receive a free boost to your franchise. Make sure to get it because this perk will jumpstart your play and give you the advantage to start your dynasty. Download the game, visit ultimate-gm.com. That's ultimate-gm.com, or look it up on the app stores. Ultimate Pro Football GM. Start your dynasty today. All right, Wink. Everything's been squashed according to Kyle Shanahan, but what were your thoughts seeing a little squabble between a long snapper and the star wide receiver on the sideline of an NFL game after the field goal kicker misses his 3rd field goal of the game?
Yeah, at first I'm like, oh no, this is gonna really disrupt the whole locker room, this and that. And then you hear, what they were actually talking about and what was said, and you kind of like it, right? Debo's a captain of your football team. He needs to get out there and hold everybody accountable and make sure everybody's out there doing their job. And he told them to lock in. Maybe some other words were said as well, and maybe that's why the pushing and the shoving got a little heated there. But I like that from my captains of my football team. Like, I want them out there getting in people's faces and being like, look, let's go. And you know what? It worked. He made the next kick, the one that mattered the most, to win them the football game. So in hindsight, well done, Debo.
Dude, maybe we need to not have as much separation with the specialists. They work off to the side. It feels like they're second-class citizens. They're not involved with the rest of the team. They barely work on it. Croc, every time we go to training camp, Wink, we were all 3 there together this year. They attempted 3 field goals at the end of practice. That was the entire special team. They didn't even get to practice. No wonder they're not good. They don't practice at all. But maybe they need more of that, because my initial response was like, man, that can't be good for a kicker to have guys coming up to him and yelling at him. But maybe they need more chest bumps. Maybe they need guys coming up to him and going, yeah, let's go, Jake Moody, lock in. Because you see that with other positions all the time. Guys pushing each other in the chest to get them pumped up, not trying to start a fight. And I think it was like Moody and Tabor Pepper are like, what is this? Why are you interacting with us over here right now? Why are you interacting with the chess club right now? You know what I mean? It's like one of those things. And it was like, oh, they must be wanting to fight. It was like, oh, let's get everybody amped up. Maybe we need more of that, Croc. Maybe we need to incorporate this into your high school football program. Maybe get the special teams. And well, usually it's like some big lineman punting anyway in high school football. The guy wearing in the 90s, like, who's the biggest kid who kicked the crap out of the ball? But Make the special teams guys feel part of the team. Get some more chest bumps going.
I was listening to this podcast earlier today, and it was Pat Beverly talking about how to talk to certain teammates and players. And it was him and who was the other guy that he was speaking with? Can't remember the other player. But anyways, they were talking about how to talk to players. And there's some players and teammates you can cuss out. Hey, mother effer, like, what you doing, man? Hey, lock in. And there's some where you say, hey, man, You almost got it. Like you were this far. You just got to switch it a little.
Yep.
You just have to kind of talk to guys differently. Now, the tough thing with the NFL is a much larger roster than basketball. So basketball, you get a chance to truly understand and know each and every player on your team and how they move, how they work, what you can say, what you can't. Football, I wonder if this is the first time Debo has ever said anything to Jake Moody. Like just any words. Like this might be the first time ever, and they've been teammates for multiple years now.
He might not.
I think it's tougher to have that same basketball dynamic with your teammates in football, but maybe Moody and this is maybe something that Taylor Pepper knows. Like you can't do that; he's going to shut down. Like Taylor Pepper might know more about Moody than a guy like Debo Samuel, and maybe that's why he was trying to defend his specialist buddy.
Yeah, and maybe kickers aren't that fragile because we treat them like, like when there's a pitcher throwing a no-hitter, it's like you don't talk to, don't let, like maybe he needs like, let's just act normal and talk to me and I'm going to go make the next pick,
act normal.
Yeah, let's act normal about our special teams. Wink, is it, first of all, let's have the Wink's wish watch because he did drop some nice punts in there on Sunday. But there's some weird stuff going on special teams. What do you think ails the Niners and what do you think can fix the Niners? Do we start cutting people and firing people?
Yeah, I mean, it was one punt for Wisnowski and he pinned it inside the 20. That's what he does. That's why I think he's one of the best punters in the NFL is because over half of his punts, which is the best percentage in the NFL, end up inside the 20. Well, that can also be a negative on the 49er offense, right? That means they're getting to midfield or so and then stalling. And so it's pretty easy for him to punt a 35-yard punt into the end zone. The same can be said for all these Moody missed field goals, right? I mean, you're talking about an offense that needs to get in the end zone. If you're getting in the end zone, you're not setting up long 40 and 50-yard field goals for your kicker, right? Who's just back after weeks off. Like, there's something to be said for the special teams. There was also a muffed punt, another muffed punt that changed this whole game. They come out after halftime, Tampa Bay, 3-and-out, punt, boom, muffed punt. You got the ball essentially in the red zone. You score a touchdown. All of a sudden, this is a football game again. Like, special teams are so important in the NFL, and the 49ers are finding ways every week to ruin what the rest of the football team is doing, right? Offense is playing well, defense is playing well, special teams is garbage. Big punt return, big kickoff return, blocked punt, blocked field goal. Like, it doesn't matter the game. They're going to find a way to have a bad special teams rep, and it's really frustrating to watch as a fan because it's an important part of the whole game. You said it. Does somebody need to get fired? How is the special teams coordinator still the special teams coordinator? Like, how do you not bring somebody else in and be like, look, we can't do any worse than we've been doing. Like, let's try somebody else.
At some point, you have to try a different philosophy.
You have to.
And just a minor tweak or a slight tweak can change everything. There are some people, not to get into politics, but let's say with Kamala Harris, right? There are a lot of people I saw saying, well, she was a part of everything that Joe Biden was doing. She could have changed it the whole time. And maybe she didn't have control over it. I don't know. I've been a part of teams, right? Even this past season, Desmond Bishop, he is an amazing defensive coordinator for us. Great mastermind. Still, there's some things I would do slightly different with coverages and things like that. So even though you're a part of something, doesn't mean that you would do everything 100% like this person. So if there's somebody that may have a different philosophy on the special teams that has a better answer for what has been happening, maybe there's a chance that you need to go with that. And they may put guys in a more advantageous situation.
Mm-hmm. Croc, let's air it out. What are all the things you want to do different than your defense? No.
No, hey, listen, Dez is the man. He's the man. He is a mastermind. And it's funny seeing him go through his process, right? This is a guy, he won a Super Bowl championship with the Green Bay Packers. He played 9 years in the NFL, played with the Niners during the Harbaugh era at linebacker. But watching somebody that's just super high level, like thinker, as far as like, defense goes, I think he's like that in everything in his life as well. It's funny because he just he'll start looking in the air and start processing something. Then he's like, I got him. And then he's like, okay, hey, we'll go do this. I'm like, gosh, how does this guy do this? And he's right every time.
Love it.
Phenomenal. Wink, before we go, I got to ask you this. The Detroit Lions and the Kansas City Chiefs, no matter what happens at the beginning of a game, can't lose football games. There's one combined loss between the two of them. blocked kick helped the Chiefs improve to 9-0. These are the teams the Niners played in the NFC Championship game, and they were the team that came back against the Lions in the NFC Championship game and then lost to the Chiefs, who came back on them. How do you beat those two teams? Are the Lions and Chiefs just destined this year? Is this just the Niners, the way things are going? Like, does it feel like they're a little bit off, and maybe that maybe it's not the Niners year? Maybe it's destined to be Lions and Chiefs the way they're winning football games. And my other sub question here is, the Cardinals is actually the team the Niners need to worry about the most right now.
Yeah, I mean, with the Chiefs, right? They've got this. They look beatable, right? They've been so almost beat this year so many times, and yet they're finding ways to win. So they've got this era of they could be beat, but also this era of invincibility where they find a way to win a football game at the same time. Like, it's this weird combination that they've got going on. I think that could build up their confidence a little bit too much, and maybe they expect that sort of thing to happen late in the season. That's what I'm hoping for. The Lions, probably the best team in the NFL right now. It hurts me to say it, as my brother's a big Lions fan, but I mean, that running game they got going on, they could overcome a 5-interception game from their quarterback and win a football game. Like, that's impressive. And then you look at what the Cardinals are doing, 4 in a row, 5 out of 6. Like, they're finding ways to win football games, and that's what matters most in the NFL. It's not how you do it. It's not, what it looks like. It's not how many yards you're putting up or stats or who's doing this or that. It's what's the final score at the end of the game. And right now, the Cardinals are doing it right. And I got this weird feeling that Week 18 game between the Cardinals and the 49ers is going to be huge.
I mean, it almost has to be at this point with the way this season is going. Looking at the Seahawks, looking at the Rams at 4-5, they're both looking pretty iffy right now. I think the Rams are one of those teams that they just don't quite have enough firepower right now. And they've got some nice pieces, but they're going to be a team, I think, that kind of loses one, wins one. And we've seen that from them this year. The Seahawks have a new coaching staff. They're still trying to figure it out there, and they'll look really good one week and then look bad for a couple of weeks now. And the Arizona Cardinals, who I thought were undermanned as well, are playing really good on defense. I thought their offense would be pretty nice this year, but their defense is coming to play. And I think their last 3 home games, they've given up 0 touchdowns.
That's
on
wild.
Arizona Cardinals. And like, name one Cardinal on defense besides Budda Baker.
That's it. I mean? That was my one. You took it.
I know.
Williams. They have a Williams, and I only know because we follow each
Johnson.
other on Instagram.
They have a Johnson. Just throwing out random important names.
Williams, the DB, right? The DB Williams. Garrett.
Oh, there you go.
Williams? Yeah.
Garrett Williams.
They
got Zaven Collins, who's kind of more used to be off-ball backer.
Yeah, we have made fun of Dortch. Not made fun of Dortch, but we're like, they're mentioning Dortch as a weapon. And you know, hey, man, that offense, they're scary. It's a scary team. And I think they are probably scary because of the quarterback that they have. He can beat you in different ways. And when you have a quarterback like that, almost like Brock Purdy, we see Brock Purdy do some things that it's tough for a defense to account for. And Kyler Williams, although he's not as efficient of a quarterback, Kyler Murray, although he's not as efficient of a quarterback as Brock Purdy, he does certain things that put a certain stress on the defense, and it's very difficult to account for that.
Before we get out of here, I just want to, I know you guys have talked about it, but that throw and that play, Brock Purdy to George Kittle in the corner of the end zone, is one of the best plays I've seen as a 49er fan. Like, that was so amazing by everybody. It was just beautiful. I just want to throw that out there.
Oh, it's phenomenal. I love seeing that. Love seeing how early he threw it, trusting his guy, and then Christian McCaffrey, a running back, being on that. And you want to know what the difference is between McCaffrey and other guys.
Oh, that play. No, that's another one. Yeah. Another great play.
I'm talking about
the Kittle touchdown.
Also a great play.
Both of those plays were so phenomenal by Purdy, and then both McCaffrey and Kittle made excellent plays on the ball too. It's just a good football game. Bummer they couldn't score more touchdowns and 3 missed field goals. Luckily, they won the game. Yeah,
I actually attributed that touchdown play to Kittle as a reason as to why the 49ers haven't been great in the red zone, because I think that where the ball was supposed to go, I'm not in these meetings, I don't know, but Debo ran a slant. You see on the right side, it was Juwan Jennings cleared it out. Debo ran a slant, and I think ideally, if you're Kyle Shanahan, you probably say, hey, get Debo the ball right there, he's going to set up a very third and manageable down and distance. And instead, obviously, you scored a touchdown. But what is going to be more consistent? Him, Debo, setting up that short yardage situation, or running around, moving around, and then throwing the most perfect ball to George Kittle. Amazing play. Not sure how consistent that will be as opposed to just doing the Debo throw. So when we look at maybe why the 49ers haven't been as great in the red zone, are they bypassing some of the plays that are there for potentially a bigger play and then maybe not connecting on the bigger play? I haven't looked into that too much, but that's just something to think about for everyone.
Good call.
And by the way, I got one more defensive player for the Arizona Cardinals. He hasn't played yet. A rookie first rounder, Darius Robinson. Croc, remember we liked him for the 49ers?
Yeah.
First round. He got hurt, I think, in training camp. He hasn't even made his debut yet for the Cardinals, so they actually might get a little better actually on the defensive line down the stretch.
You see your guy Newton, Johnny Newton, jump off sides on a fake snap that ended the game for Washington. He was hurt.
Bad. So bad.
His feet are better though. At least you can't jump off sides like that if your feet aren't healthy. So that's a good sign for the 49ers. Niners feeling good about their draft, no matter who they passed on, who didn't fall to them, whatever. They're feeling really good about their draft class. That's for sure. All right, thanks everybody for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Make sure you subscribe up on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. Croc and I back tomorrow. We're getting ready for the Seattle Seahawks right here. Locked On 49ers. See ya.
We do ask that you dump your trash on the way out.
Moody?
Oh, no.